Testing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Testing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I want to give a big warm welcome anyone who is joining us now or joining us later. You're looking at the ice as it's being surfaced here prior to the first day of tryouts for this 2017-2018 Duck hockey team. We're going to get a look at them against the Eugene Generals later on in the week, and we're here to do a little bit of peeking now to see if we can get any idea of what this roster is going to look like. So in just a couple of moments, you'll see the boys take the ice, and once that starts to happen, we'll give you a little bit of a rundown of their schedule. We won't have any kind of a full or official tryout coverage, but we just wanted to get everything going here and make sure that everything was up and running. So we will be back with some tryout information real shortly for you. Well, hello, everybody. Isaac Rosenthal, joined by Trenton Chalmers. You'll see Trenton with a couple of various different roles this year. Color commentating sometimes. He'll be helping us out at intermissions and pregame shows other times. Just sort of the utility player, whatever we need him, when we're happy to have him.
The Renaissance Duck.
Renaissance Duck. As you can see, the boys taking the ice for the beginning of tryouts. And look over there. We've got 4 goalies that are trying out. Now, we don't know if we're going to see 4 goalies on the roster. That's the point of tryouts, isn't it? But that could be such a luxury for this Ducks team if all 4 of these guys are able to play at a ACHA D2 Pac 8 level. It's a luxury enough when the Ducks can have 3 goalies, and when you can have 4, you've got real competition for those goaltending spots every night. That's going to be something that you want to watch going down the rest of the year. Of course, we know it will see most likely we'll see Jackson Howery, Noah Rosenberg, Ben Green, all returners, and then the mystery 4th attendee there. We don't have any tryout rosters. We're going at this blind, so our intentions for this broadcast really just to run through our motions, make sure all of our gear is working, but we want to give you an opportunity at least with some minimal context behind in front of us to see what's going on with these tryouts. Maybe you can start to identify some skating styles. And let's get right into that roster now, and we'll make this nice and quick. The Ducks are going to start with 2 games against the Eugene Generals on September 29th and 30th. We will bring you the broadcast on the 29th. On the 30th, it's officially a Generals home game. I believe you'll catch that one on the Generals Hockey Network if they're doing their broadcast. And then October 6th, the alumni game. So 3 exhibition games, Trenton, before they even get to the regular season. And that's all. It doesn't matter the sport. When you get 3 real game situation games to take a look at your roster, that's always going to be good for building that kind of chemistry going into the regular season.
Exactly. I mean, because last year they had tryouts, and then 3 days later they had to go up against UW, who has clearly been playing together for a month and actually really had time to gel, and Ducks really to get it, so they kind of had to go trial by fire to start the season.
And then when that season does start, the Ducks are going to be on the road for the first 4 games, and it's 4 games in 4 days down in Southern California, 2 against USC and 2 against defending champs UCLA. But those are both teams based on last year that this Ducks team could feel like they beat. Now, you never know what the Pac 8's going to look like in any given year, but it's a tough road trip to start the year. It'll be the longest road trip that the Ducks make, I believe, by mileage this season. Yes. So you get the travel out of the way, the biggest travel that they have going down to Southern California. UW, Santa Rosa, Washington State, those are all going to be closer to town that they face later on. So that'll be a challenge. It always remains to be seen what UCLA and USC bring. They do usually bring big rosters as far as the numbers on the rosters go, and traditional Pac-8 teams, they've been at this for a long time.
Yeah, I remember USC last year almost didn't have enough room in the box for all their players. I believe they were running around 30 to 35 guys.
And then, so after the October 15th, that's the 4th game of those first 4. The Ducks come back October 20th and 21st, and the I-5 Cup's always what you circle on your calendar, Trenton, but honestly, for my money, it's the Cal games this year. Maybe I might honestly be more worked up about this than the Ducks team was, although I think they were pretty upset about it themselves last year. For the fans and for those of you who don't quite remember what I'm talking about, let's fill you in. The Pac-8 has to use some pretty wonky standing measures because each team plays a totally imbalanced schedule, and Oregon was no exception to that last year. They had 10 home games canceled. So everybody plays a different number of games. It makes it a little bit complicated to figure out how to rank those teams. And it becomes there is a mathematical formula to it, but it seems to be really whatever the computer gods are feeling that day. Well, long story short, the Ducks and Cal, going into the last weekend of the regular season last year, are tied for the 4th spot. It's important because that gave them may have been the third spot. They were tied for the last spot that gave them a first-round bye at the Pac-8 tournament. Cal reaches out to Oregon to cancel those games. They cited something about weather, and you don't want to have to travel when it's not safe, so okay. But the weather forecast for that weekend did not show anything frozen or snowy on the drive up from Berkeley. And then after those cancellations, Cal ends up getting that first round bye spot. Oregon had to play the play-in game, and the rest of that is history. So these Ducks were not very happy about that, and they really felt hard done by the way that things worked out at the end of last season.
And it didn't help after the tournament where Cal got on Twitter and started making mentions toward this Ducks hockey Twitter about how they were going home early, even though they canceled a game with us that I think we really had a good shot at winning and getting that bye, and probably a little bit more motivated than normal to play them this year.
Yeah, I think, and you want that. You want to figure out a way to harness that energy and to have something good going for you. It's going to be a tough stretch, as we said, with UCLA and USC on the road, but then you got to make it worth it. You got to start strong against Cal at home, and then if Cal's going to be challenging, Arizona State coming in here October 27th, October 28th, that's when I'm real excited for. Arizona State has not been in this conference in quite a few years, and that's a school with a rich hockey tradition. They've got a Division I team now, and then they've had several club teams dotted throughout the ACHA, but prior to having that club team, that varsity team, that did not come out of nowhere. They were a national powerhouse, D1 powers that had clubs that won in the D2 and the Pac-8 level as well. So back in the conference now, and especially with Utah having left the Pac-8 conference, ASU coming back brings a little bit of national credibility to this league. But it's going to be a tough challenge because they're going to be the toughest team that's going to have come into this building in quite a long time. That's at least what we expect to see. It may be that the varsity team has had a detrimental effect on the ASU club situation, but I have to assume it's gone the other way. I have to assume, if anything, it's going to have made it a more competitive roster to make, and it's going to be exciting to see those boys come in here.
And it'll be a good test for the Ducks, just because ASU is going to want to reestablish their dominance on this conference, so they can't be pushovers.
And then we mentioned the I-5 Cup a little bit ago in passing. It gets started in earnest November 3rd and 4th up in Seattle, and it's going to be a Ducks team that is desperate to get that trophy home. 2 seasons in a row now they've watched that cup go the wrong direction, and it's been just a couple of frustrating years in the I-5 Cup. Going back to not last year, the year before, the Ducks up in Seattle had a great goal, perhaps the best moment in this broadcast history. Joe Hoover scoring with 0.8 of a second left in the third period to tie the game. The teams then played throughout overtime as a draw, and then UW said that's it. And there have been some significant disagreements about what the Pac-8 rulebook says for a tiebreaker in that situation. There is a understood tradition in the I-5 Cup that ties are not allowed to happen, but they dug their heels in, told the referees that was the rule, and ended up drawing that first game, rendering it pretty much impossible for the Ducks to come back in that series with a loss and a draw on the road in Seattle. But you don't need that. You don't need any of that extra narrative or any of that. And, honestly, it's a different enough team. 2 years in the Pac-8, that's a long time. It's a different enough team that it's not really even going to be that much in the forefront of these guys' minds. But with UW, it doesn't have to be. And they are, you got to see it firsthand last year. Those teams, they don't care for each other.
No, not at all. It was very chippy. It was very physical. They went after each other. And honestly, even though the Ducks got swept at home, they actually played rather well. They had almost doubled the shots on goal. They just couldn't get it past that goalie.
Moving on, about halfway through the schedule now. Veterans Day weekend, November 10th and 11th. Santa Rosa Junior College, 2 road games. rare out-of-league, out-of-conference road game for the Ducks, but Santa Rosa Junior College, the Polar Bears, that's a team that has had a long history with this Ducks program, and a lot of the guys, there's so much California influence on this Ducks roster. There's always a little bit of familiarity on those rosters. Very often, guys have played against each other at different levels of hockey, and they have that familiarity with each other's games, sometimes a little bit of animosity. Sometimes you never know it after. Can be great friends off the ice, but always gets put aside on the ice. And then 2 more on the road, November 17th and 18th, bringing us back into league play against Washington State. Now, we'll have to check on this because it's listed on the Duck website right now as at Washington State, but at Seattle. Typically, those games against the Cougars have been in Spokane, so we'll keep an eye on that, and we'll make sure we have the story for you sometime before then, hopefully by this Friday when the Ducks start against the Generals. First 2 games of December and the last 2 games of 2017. A pair of home games against Gonzaga. And then January 12th and 13th, San Jose State comes to town. They're another team that is really successful at this level. The Ducks have gone down there before. They've played in some tournaments at the San Jose area before, and always really challenges this Ducks team. And then January 19th and 20th, we have the 3rd and 4th games of the I-5 Cup. So the Ducks on the road first and at home second in the I-5 Cup this year. That's always, for my money, that's the advantageous position to be in. It's tough to start on the road, but there's a lot less pressure. You get 1 win in that first series, and all of a sudden you're in a great position coming home. But it also means you're going to have to deliver at home. In that scenario, you're still counting on those 2 home wins. You've really got to get your home wins against the Huskies in that I-5 Cup series. Then it's another team that the Ducks are actually going to see 4 times this year. Eastern Washington comes to town January 26th and 27th. The Ducks will be there then the first weekend of February, and it looks like it's got to be a tournament the way those games are arranged. Eastern Washington, Idaho, and then Eastern Washington again, all from Cheney, Washington. Did you know Eastern Washington has an on-campus rink, Trent?
They do.
One of the only teams in the ACHA that gets to say that, and real nice on-campus facility. The Ducks have been up there in the past. Moving on then, that brings us to the end of that schedule. February 9th, 10th, and 11th are the dates set for the Pac-8 playoffs. Those once again scheduled for South Lake Tahoe, California. It's always a fun trip out there, although the games themselves have not always been tremendously kind to the Ducks, but they're a long way away. Not until February 9th. It's a team that doesn't have a roster right now. It has to figure out its players and its identity by then, and who knows, Arizona State, just on reputation, you'd probably pick them as the most likely team to win this league, but the games aren't played on the league isn't played, doesn't exist in late September on paper. The games are going to have to happen. We're going to have to see who emerges as the front runners in the Pac-8 and what comes of this Duck hockey program. It's a team that's kind of struggled the last couple of years, looking to regain their good positions in the Pac-8 and hopefully, at the very least, bring that I-5 Cup home. You got any big picture goals for the Ducks you want to see this year?
I want to see him advance. I just want to see him make a good showing because, like you said, they've struggled the last few years, and last year was just an atonement of frustration of games being canceled because of snow, playing good games, couldn't get it in the goal. It just was a complete year of frustration. I just want to see them just get going, move on, and start a clean slate and just win some hockey games.
And those wins going to have to start with staying out of the penalty box. It's something that we said time and time again, not even just last season. It was not by any means a problem unique to last season, but when you're playing a man down all the time, you just don't have the opportunity to get into the rhythm of your game, and that was the story of the night way too often for the Ducks last year. So We do have some new faces behind the bench, and we'll learn all those names and get those stories for you by the time we drop the puck Friday night at 7:35. We're going to roll a little bit more tryouts, but that's basically going to do it for our preview here. We just wanted to give everyone a rundown of that schedule. I know we did that real fast, so if you want another look at that schedule, you can just check out OregonDucksHockey.com. Click on the link that says team, and the schedule will be right there, and the roster will be there too as soon as they've got that finalized. So for Trenton Chalmers, I'm Isaac Rosenthal. Thanks so much, and have a great rest of your night.